All right, well, it's 9:30 on the Verizon clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of business is a pledge of allegiance, and then let's have a moment of silence for victims of gun violence in this country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Sort of not really necessary to take a roll call since you can see that everybody's here, but I'll just note that Stephanie Turman, John Pegg, Joe Cotton, Lori Muskorski, myself, Michelle Zmianik, and Ugoric are all here in person. Jen Liptic is on her way up, and on the line, Allie Doyle, are you on?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. Senator Brewster, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Thanks. And Representative Pisciotano, are you on? Okay, well, we got an almost board.
I'm on the line too, Jeff, until I get up. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I announced that you were on your way up. You didn't hear me. Okay, so let's look for approval of the minutes of the October 27th meeting. May I have a motion? Second.
I'll move.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Catherine, you want to give a report? The CEO.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Happy belated Veterans Day. May I please have a moment of silence for the following retired employees who passed away since my last report. Operators Robert Shelter, Pamela Chavis, David Schenk, J.C. Stepp, and Raymond Alexander. Automotive mechanic Albert Bowe Jr., and body repair person Gail Smith. And before a moment of silence, I'm going to break my protocol. Gail made everybody feel so, in addition to making the most amazing cheesecake. There was never a time that Gail was not welcoming to everybody who made it back to the maintenance bay in East Liberty. She didn't care who you were, where you came from, if you were staff, if you were a board member, you were going to feel welcome, and you were not going to be able to eat for 3 more days. Gail was a private person with her health. She retired in July, and many of our staff did not know that she was ill at the time. So this is not just a loss of somebody who has retired. It's somebody who was really, really near and dear. And many of us, and again, it was her choice and her family's choice to handle her health as she saw fit. But I know a lot of us are still struggling with her loss. So wherever you are, Gail, let somebody else cook. If I could get a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
So this is our last meeting of the year, if you can believe that. We'll see you in 9 or 10 more weeks. I would like to publicly thank, on behalf of all of our employees and riders, County Executive Ritz Fitzgerald for his unwavering commitment to public transit all of these years, and I mean all of these years. Before I even started the job, Rich took me to 8 Christmas parties when I was supposed to be house hunting, and I still don't remember who I met. It was amazing to go from a steamfitters party to the American Legion to a congressional candidates party. Rich has always vouched for us. He's always used his capital to advance public transit. He's been an incredible champion. He supported our workers, increased our funding and service and infrastructure, and would put in a call not just with the governor, but the White House for us. He's been a huge champion and an advocate for us. We will miss him. I'm also looking forward to working with County Executive-elect Sarah Ann Morato, who has also got an excellent track record for transit. And I'm sure she will continue to be a staunch advocate for transit and our riders. And while I'm on the congratulatory page, our board chair, Jeff Letwin, has recently been appointed by Governor Shapiro to Pennsylvania's Transportation Advisory Committee. So I'm excited to have somebody we know on the Transit Advisory Committee. And I hope you cherish your nice, fancy embossed certificate. Looking forward to working with you.
That's all I've gotten so far.
Yeah, it's more than I got. Kidding. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that we have added Spanish to our IVR, our automated service, which helps folks when you call in on customer service. We have had for a long time the service where you can press a button, go through the selection menu of 250 other languages, but now we have a customized solution in Spanish. It is the first step towards making sure that our neighbors who are most likely to have limited English proficiency here in Allegheny County are able to use the system on their terms. At the turn of the year, look forward to more information coming out, more announcements coming out, more information coming out in Spanish. We've spoken in public meetings and also here that under Title VI guidelines, when 10% of the population of a county speaks a language at home other than English, we are obligated to switch over. We don't have a population group that hits that 10%, but we know we have folks who speak a second language primarily at home, who are limited English proficiency and otherwise fit into the populations of folks that we know are most likely to take transit. So based on income, based on household age. So as we are structuring our policies to make sure we can get information to folks in a way that's most useful for them, we're starting with IVR. So folks will be able to get information on the next bus coming to them, how to end their Connect card balance. We still have customer service folks, and we have access to over 200 other languages in our database. So it's a small step, but it is a step, and I'm excited to announce that. And finally, last month, we modified schedules on a lot of bus routes, including the 61s and 71s. You may have heard a little bit about that. I shouldn't joke, it's a big change. And it's been very front of mind for a lot of folks. After upticks in questions and comments about the changes, we've seen a significant reduction in calls. Riders are getting more accustomed. They are still calling and letting us know what they think and sharing frustration about how much more information might have been helpful. We will not have ridership for a few more weeks. We gather this on a monthly basis and process it. But what we've seen in the month of October is a 60% reduction in trips with standing room only, 5% increase in on-time performance, and out of service has been averaging under 2% since the 1st of October. Now, if this was a vacuum and we were not dealing with people who had feelings, if we were UPS, this would be great, right? But we are not in parcel delivery. We transport human beings who have feelings and strong sentiments. And we've definitely heard back from passengers that regardless of it feeling efficient, it doesn't feel good and it's not effective for them. Bunch of issues compact into that, and you've heard me talk about staffing shortage. I'm happy to announce that our amazing HR team working on a whole bunch of different programs. It's not the hiring, it's the making sure we're doing good, strong training as we go forward. I think is the best way to phrase that. There are still a bunch of jobs open in Allegheny County, but we know that we have a great place to work at. So the challenge is how long does it take to get somebody in and get them trained and then get them into this job? We average 3 students to every 1 instructor. That sounds narrow, but when you consider that we are focusing on 98 routes and we are transporting people on 30 or 44,000 tons, it's a pretty good ratio. It stands up well with our friends in other transit agency. Today, we have 13% fewer operators than we did before the pandemic and 14% less service. So on paper, it sounds like it lines up, but some garages have lost more service than other, and we're still in that process of massaging. Should we have folks here? Should we have folks over there? This has not been easy, but we do have to maintain a balance between providing essential transit service and address the concerns of overworked staff. This is an agency that's always run on overtime, which is great when it comes to Christmas spending, but our population of workers is, myself included, not any younger. And some of the overtime that maybe we've been able to do that I would have considered punitive, folks just don't want to do that. And they shouldn't have to. Our contract dictates that our overtime is voluntary, and that is what a good employer does. We don't compel people to come in, and our younger employees are less likely to pick up overtime, and good for them. I mean, you want to live your life, and that makes sense. So this is a challenge of making sure that we can get folks through good, solid training and get them out into service. We'll have, we graduated 14 operators on Thursday. Friday was an administrative holiday. We have 40 folks who will be joining our training in January, 40 more in March. This should get us to a stabilized level of service, and we will continue with 40 people per class. We also, I would say for our board to anticipate a small budget amendment next year as we increase the number of trainers that we have. So we have the ability to get more folks through the system. It's crucial to acknowledge that our commitment to the community is unwavering as we continue to work on these issues. We know it is not I don't want to say it's inconvenient. That feels like it trivializes if your trip is not there, or if your trip was being filled by an operator who was working overtime and it's Thursday and they're tired and their kid has Cub Scouts and they're just not going to pick up that trip. We know that we have trips which don't have an operator assigned, and it's kind of like playing the lotto to see who you're going to get. And if you're like me, your luck of the lotto is not good, or I wouldn't be standing here. So we understand that things can look like we're making better, we're getting better, and it's still inconvenient for passengers. But we continue to focus on streamlining our hiring process and making sure we have the maximum resources available to train. So we can hit this point, and we feel like we see it, knock on wood, where we've got enough operators in that you're not seeing reductions in service. What does that mean for February? For February, you will probably see about a 1% reduction, so we can continue to stabilize. And then going forward, we should be at the point we have enough operators, we can onboard more. And then for potentially not June, but definitely October next year, have these conversations of where to add service back in. And that will be a conversation we have with all of our stakeholders. Mr. Chair, unless there are any questions, that concludes my remarks.
Any questions? Thanks, Catherine. If you'll indulge me, I do want to extend another congratulations to Senator Brewster, who's been reappointed as Vice Chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee. He's been a great advocate, not only for the region and his district, but for public transit. So Kim, congratulations on that. Okay, if we can have the report of the Performance and Oversight Committee from our Chair, Michelle Zaninik.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. The Performance Oversight Committee met last week, and I have 5 resolutions for your consideration. The committee first reviewed 6 procurement items and determined the bids to be in accordance with PRT's procurement policies and procedures and prices to be fair and reasonable. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends the award of bids listed in the resolution for the total amount of approximately $4.2 million. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I'll take that as a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
The second resolution I have is to authorize PRT to extend and amend an agreement with Willis Towers Watson US LLC to provide employee benefits consulting services. The initial 3-year term of the agreement expires on February 28th, 2024, and PRT is seeking to exercise the first option year extension and to increase the total authorized not to exceed amount by $275,000. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends extending the agreement for 1 additional year to February 28th, 2025, and increasing the total authorized amount of the agreement from $825,000 to $1.1 million. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries.
The next resolution would authorize PRT to enter into a structures over facilities agreement with Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. The PRT is planning a project to improve the rail station on Broadway Avenue known as Velasco Station. A portion of the project will encroach over a portion of the public sewer lines and related facilities. In order to complete the project, PRT and PWSA have negotiated an agreement that provides for the terms and conditions of PRT's encroachment and provides the Water Authority with a permanent easement to access its facilities for future maintenance purposes. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Can I have a motion? Is a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next resolution seeks authorization for PRT to extend its agreement for real estate services. PRT requires a consultant to provide expertise and technical support for all aspects of the real estate interests. The current agreement is set to expire on December 31st, 2023, and as services are critical to PRT's continued oversight and stewardship of its real estate assets and transit operations, PRT wishes to continue these services with its current contractor while PRT completes a new public solicitation for services. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends extending the agreement with Interstate Acquisition Services for an additional 3 months and increase the previously authorized total not to exceed amount by $150,000. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
In a second, that's good. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
The final resolution is to award construction contracts for the West Mifflin Garage Equipment Replacement and Facilities Improvements Project. After review of the responsive bids, it was determined that the general construction contract be awarded to Mercedes Construction Company in the amount of $8,987,222. The mechanical construction contract to be awarded to SSM Industries Incorporated in the amount of $596,000. The plumbing construction contract be awarded to Wheels Mechanical Contracting and Supplier Incorporated in the amount of $688,000. And the electrical construction contract be awarded to Allegheny City Electric Incorporated in the amount of $1,856,500. The Performance Oversight Committee recommends awarding these contracts subject to completing all pre-award requirements. My fellow members, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That motion carries.
Mr. Chair, also at the meeting, the committee received a detailed presentation concerning PRT's system safety program from PennDOT State Safety Oversight Agency representatives. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Michelle, is there any questions for Michelle? Okay, let's have a report of Planning and Stakeholders Committee from John Taggett, Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members and stakeholders. The Planning and Stakeholders Relations Committee met last week. I have a few items for the board. First, Director of Transit Scheduling, Philip St. Pierre, presented an update on the October 1 major service changes and high-level look at the changes anticipated for February. While it was too early for official ridership data for the October 1 service changes, preliminary data reflected that the number of trips with standees on the 61s and the 71s had decreased from 100 trips on average each weekday, almost all of the East End, to 37, almost all in Uptown. On-time performance on the 61s and 71s was also up by 5%. Because the committee does not meet again until February, the February tentative service changes were also previewed, which included a minor service reduction of about 1.5%. This will allow the additional operators to assist with covering service when operators are out and will help stabilize service based on the projections for the rest of 2024 and beyond as the organization turns the corner with operating hiring. The proposed changes also include route changes for about 10 routes, running times adjustments for about another 20 routes, and frequency changes on more than 20 routes, among others. Those proposed changes are still in progress and will not be formally presented to the board until January. Second item is the Allegheny County Transit Council met on November 15th. Director of Transit Scheduling, Philip St. Pierre, provided the council with an update on the October service adjustments and an overview of the planned February service adjustments. Manager of Transit-Oriented Communities, Moya Egler, presented an update on the Heron Station area plan. The next scheduled meeting is on January 25th, 2024. Third item, the Committee for Accessible Transportation, CAT member Lisa Grisman provided remarks on the PRT stroller policy, detour language, and Complete Streets Advisory Committee, and the CMU Committee on delivery robots. Senior Service Planner Steve Matthews provided the committee with a overview of the bus line redesign project and the coming community engagement. Acting Chief Development Officer Amy Silverman provided the committee with updates on the recent October service adjustments.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions? Okay, and with that, we'll move on to the report of the Finance Committee from Ms. Sharon O'Gore.
Morning, Chair and fellow board members. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, November 9th, 2023. The following is a review of the October financial results presented at last week's meeting. It was reported that total operating income for the month of October was under budget by $700,000 due to lower passenger and access revenue. Total expenses for the month of October were below budget by $900,000 due to lower wages and benefits, materials, and purchased services. Total operating income is $2.8 million higher than last fiscal year through October due to higher passenger revenues and investment income. Total expenses through October are $6.6 million higher than last fiscal year due to higher wages and benefits, materials, access, and other expenses. Total subsidy is $42.9 million higher than last fiscal year due to $30 million in additional federal stimulus invoicing, higher preventive maintenance invoicing, and increased state operating assistance. It was reported that PRT has invoiced a combined $31.1 million against the ARPA and CARISA federal stimulus programs for the fiscal year and ended the month of October with approximately $297.2 million in cash reserves. Mr. Chairman, unless there are any other questions or comments, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ann. Are there any questions? Okay, that will move on to the report of the Technology Committee from Jen Liptakich, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Technology Committee met on November 9th, and we have 3 resolutions for consideration today. The committee first reviewed a resolution to extend agreement number R17-10 with Apache Rail SDS Incorporated for procurement replacement of the automatic trip stop system. The ATS, as it's known, is a critical safety mechanism on the rail services, and project is continuing. The current contract expires on December 11, 2023, and the request is to extend it with no change to the authorized dollar amount to December 11, 2024 to complete the project. With that, I respectfully request board members approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. The next resolution reviewed is to authorize PRT to extend and amend number R20-01 with Ideal Integrations to provide data center hosting and managed security services. As the initial 3-year term of the contract concludes, PRT is requesting to utilize the first option extension year to increase the total not to exceed amount to $3,940,963.24. Thank goodness we had that 20. To $5,254,624.32. With that, my fellow members, I respectfully request we approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. And my final resolution is to authorize the agency to enter into an agreement with Clever Devices Ltd. for software maintenance and support services. Clever Devices first began use on the agency's vehicles in 2000, with significant growth in services and utilization in the years since. The resolution will extend PRT to enter into an agreement with Clever Devices for services for up to 5 years through December 31st of 2028, for a total authorized not to exceed amount of $4,021,320. With that, I respectfully request the board approve this resolution.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, with that, we are just dispensing with the item that's listed as new business, and so we'll move right on to public comment. I want to remind the speakers of their 3-minute time limitation, and I apologize in advance when I enforce that specifically and cut you off. So you'll forgive me. First speaker is Amy Zeiss.
It's Maybe John logging on, but she's not on right now.
Okay, we'll get back to her then. Laura Perkins. Morning.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Perkins. I use she, her, ella pronouns. I'm the human rights organizer at Casa San Jose, a community organization that serves the Latino community of Southwest Pennsylvania. Our vision is a region that celebrates Latino culture, welcomes immigrants, and embraces inclusion, dignity, and respect. I think we have a long way to go. I think a lot of people here might agree. Honestly, I don't know anyone else in Pittsburgh or the Pittsburgh region that speaks more with immigrants that take public transit other than myself. I give orientations to this great public transit system to immigrants as they arrive into the Pittsburgh region. And I'm here to offer my free services to help make this transit system more inclusive to the immigrant community. I celebrate the announcement of adding Spanish language to the automated IVR system. That's wonderful. So thank you so much for doing that. I know I myself have had to call with non-English speakers to that line, and we've struggled to get language access. So I think it's a move in the right direction. I've offered my help a lot, and I haven't, no one's really taken me up on it. So I'm here again to offer my free help at any time of day. I'm on call 24/7 to support the immigrant community. We welcome about 100 Spanish speakers to Pittsburgh a month. This is in a region that has stagnant population growth. Immigrants are the engine that drive our local economy, and they do not have access to driver's licenses. I think they are the community that depends most on public transit. If you look at all communities and you break them down, I think it is the community, actually I'm sure that it's the community that depends most on public transit. I wanted to make one thing super clear, that the 8.5 by 11 sheets posted at different bus stops that say more or less, if you need help in this language, you can call this number. In my 5 years doing this work, I don't know of anyone who has used that resource. So I just want to, when people think about language access, let's be practical and let's talk with the people that actually need it. Language experts at the university think that it's a great option, but when you talk with immigrants, they really do not use that resource, which is why I would love to offer my help. Lastly, the Belasco stop was mentioned. That's on the red line of the T. I've shared in the past a study that says that 38% of the red line riders speak Spanish, 38%. So I'd like that when we plan ahead for the Belasco stop renovation and work, which we're really excited about, we really support accessibility in Beachview. There's a long way to go, not just with public transit, but other infrastructure, that please do not use volunteer drivers as an emergency, because we know that this work will be happening. So let's plan ahead instead of just saying, oh, we need a volunteer driver this morning, right? The drivers are already out of work, and so if we can plan ahead, that'd be great. And in those plans, please engage with our immigrant community. Like I said, 38% of the riders in Beachview speak Spanish. So I'm here are my business cards. Please contact me, I'm begging you.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Andrew Hussein. Andrew, I know you're not in the room. Are you online? Andrew? Okay, then our next speaker is Daniel Blonsky.
Hello and good morning. My name is Daniel Blonsky. I'm an organizer with Pittsburghers for Public Transit. We are a union of transit riders and transit workers. We fight for more reliable, affordable, and expanded service throughout the county. So we've been talking a lot over the last 2 months about the service changes on the 61s and the 71s. Been having a lot of conversations with riders, and concern is that the reduction of seats going between Oakland and downtown, the reduction of frequency, it creates this scarcity for our transit system, or at least a perception of scarcity. This heightens tension between riders and riders, heightens tension between riders and operators, and it creates an environment around public transit that is not comfortable. It's not encouraging more ridership. But today we want to focus on the unreliability as it culminates in a lack of time equity. So in January, February, and March of this year, PRT's on-time bus arrivals fell from 72% to 70%. In April, May, and June, they fell from 68 to 65. In July, August, and September, they fell from 65 to 64. So at no point during this year has PRT met their goal of 73% of the buses arriving on time. And I'll just pause here to note that since PRT began publishing their on-time arrivals in 2017, 82 months ago, PRT's only met that goal for 10 months. And just to say, why is that goal 73? That's C-grade service when riders deserve A. These are dismal reliability numbers. So in addition to these unreliability numbers, and the fact that PRT has been reducing service, removing bus stops, erasing time points from schedules, and redesigning routes that force transfers. These changes mean that riders need to wait longer, walk further, and ride more often on uncomfortable buses. This creates the time equity crisis, and it steals the agency, the independence away from the people who are riding our system. Simply, that translates to a lack of respect for riders' time. It doesn't take a transit expert to understand that this is the wrong direction for our system. It's no wonder that PRT has been underperforming compared to its peer cities when it comes to ridership recovery from before the pandemic. A new report published by the Urban Institute titled Surmounting the Fiscal Cliff shows that transit in 7 mid-sized cities are now carrying more passengers than they were before the pandemic. Cities like Stamford, Worcester, Alexandria, Tucson, Richmond, Bridgeport. So this proves that the future can be bright for systems that do not resign themselves to poor service. When it comes to when they improve service, when they reduce fares, when they respect the people that are riding transit, we can bring back more riders to our system. So while we sit here,
Thank you, Mr.
yeah,
Jablonski.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, our next speaker is Morgan Sikowski.
Hey,
Hello.
Hi, you're on.
Great. Hi. My name is Morgan Sikowski. I use she, they pronouns. I was here for the last 2 meetings where I joined fellow riders asking that the 61s and 71s be reversed. Now you guys are talking about a bus line redesign, which is terrifying considering you didn't listen to us when we told you that the cuts to the 61s and 71s were going to cause problems for our most vulnerable riders. I understand Ms. Kellerman said that the complaints are stopping coming in, but it can be very discouraging knowing that you guys don't listen to us. So what is the motivation to keep coming back and asking for things when you guys aren't listening to us? As a board of a public agency, you are supposed to represent the riders. You are supposed to have our interests at heart. We are your shareholders, we are your bottom line. So it makes me wonder about some of you. Why do you want to be on the board? And what interest do you even have with public transit? Because for so many of the people who ride the system that you all oversee, the bus is their life. The system that your input can make or break is the same system that gets people to and from life-saving medical appointments every day. The system that this board of undemocratically elected representatives has the privilege of giving their input to is the same system that gets thousands of students, from elementary kids to graduate students, to class every day. The system that this board, who seemingly doesn't care about the people they serve, is the same system that is responsible for getting thousands of others to their jobs they need to survive. I'll ask a very basic question. Do any of you ride PRT even once a month? I know you can't answer me, and I think that's a real shame. The public deserves to know if people who have the power to make their lives better or worse have any personal investment themselves. It's obvious that most of you don't. I say most because I don't want to discredit the few who actually care. I do appreciate some of the people on this board who have a history of fighting for riders, fighting for disability rights, fighting for our community. I think some of you do show that, some of you don't. I will keep coming back to these meetings because I believe in the accountability of the board, and I believe that my community deserves a world-class transit system, and I won't stand for anything less. Eyes are on you guys with this new bus line redesign. Please know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amy Karangaitis. Amy Karangaitis. I hope I'm not butchering that name. Going once, going twice. Okay, then our next speaker is Gina Anderson.
Again, I'm going to apologize because I am getting over a concussion. So before I start, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to look you in the eyes. So I'm Regina Anderson, a certified transport urban planner, land use. Recent cuts to Pittsburgh Transit are part of continual declines in service. And the backdrop for this seems to be some belief in unbearable budget constraints and now also the bus driver shortage. Pittsburgh is not alone in having budget issues, and benefits packages for drivers can be improved. Surprisingly, though all systems were hit during COVID, the transit systems now thriving financially are those that increased their service. The need to continue cutting service needs to be questioned by the board. There have been insufficient reasons given for the continual decline, and there is no talk of service improvements. And I ask why, honestly, why? The board is the critical check and balance for PRT management and should be requiring more data and asking more hard questions. At last week's committee meetings, PRT gave 4 data highlights for recent changes: trips with standees, on-time performance, ridership, and a mention of rider concern. But there were glaring omissions. There are few, if any, measures yet shared of how the cuts are impacting riders. Robust data should be provided on, for example, transfers in Oakland, the number of people and their neighborhoods, transfer waiting times in Oakland, considering poor bus reliability, lost ridership, the number of riders lost because car owners find it too inconvenient to take the bus now. And one example is Highland Park. And finally, waiting times at stops for changed routes. And a little backstory, many of the schedule changes, including for Highland Park 71A and B, now have buses scheduled very close together, in some cases 6 minutes apart, but no increase in overall buses running. So that once those 2 buses passed, the next wait is very long. That turns people away also. So again, this is a clear reduction in service. So there should be a measure of the number of people having longer waits along all the changed routes. These are only a few measures that should be routinely provided to the board. I applaud particularly the Planning and Stakeholder Committee for asking some important questions last week. There is a pattern of disingenuous and misleading rationale being given to the board by management, as well as the omission of critical data that the board should have. Lacking adequate data, the board cannot assess the many proposals that are being made. This is clearly management pulling the wool over the board's eyes and a huge concern for the public. Today,
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you for
Thank
letting
you.
me speak.
Okay, is Amy Zeiss on the line now?
Amy is online. Additionally, I am representing PPT, so I believe per the board behavior policy, we had 5 minutes to speak. And that's kind of true.
Is that correct? Yeah, you should have announced it ahead of time that you were speaking on behalf of the agency.
I did.
Hold on.
Oh, you did?
He said he
What do we do?
He said
He acknowledged she wasn't here.
Sure.
Did you register online to speak, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and did you register as an agency or did you register as an individual?
As in,
When he disclosed it, when he sat down, he said he was with PPT.
Okay.
I think you have. But he also only got 3 minutes. So there's still 5 minutes. There's 5 minutes for an organization. You have more than one person, like you have more than one member,
Yeah.
right? Dance one.
But while we're debating this issue, is Amy Zeiss on the line?
Yes.
You want to speak, Amy?
Hello, good morning.
Why don't you speak while we get this other issue straightened out? Go ahead.
Great. I want to thank the board for their time again today. I apologize for being tardy. I'm traveling, but attending these meetings has become really important to me. And like I said, I consider it a privilege to be able to move around my work commitments and still show up here. Today, I just wanted to briefly comment on, again, the changes to the 61 buses. And I saw recently that there was an article in which PRT touted that reliability was up 5% on these particular lines. And I'm concerned because this data doesn't seem to be publicly available. I spend more time than I'd like to admit on PRT's transparency reliability dashboard, and the statistics for October are not available yet. So I'm very concerned by PRT's PR being able to spin a particular story and narrative without the public nor even reporters being able to validate that. So I also heard earlier that supposedly complaints are down among riders in these lines. I'd just like to point out the obvious that I believe was mentioned previously. If riders don't feel like they're being heard, why would they continue to complain? Anecdotal data like that about complaints isn't representative of reality. And I think that the public deserves to see the actual information, like Gina said, transfers onto other buses from these lines, how the reliability is going, and that you all have an obligation to listen to the public and make that information available. I believe this was also one of the points listed in the PA auditor's report, suggesting that you all do more to offer transparency to riders and the public about what you're doing at the agency to address these long-standing issues. So again, thank you for your time. I'll wrap up with this, and I look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you. Okay, with respect to the presentations, it's 5 minutes for an agency where more than one member of the agency will be making public comments. That said, if you, Mr. Yablonsky, do you feel that there was new information that you didn't get in, and in 2 minutes you can get the additional information in, we'll go ahead and extend you that courtesy.
Okay, thank you for the invitation and thank you for the clarification. So I'll just continue and say that for a system to create time equity for its riders, it means that we must approach access as being more than just lines on a map. Access means that you're able to reach important resources and destinations in a reasonable, reliable amount of time. It means that flexibility is not a privilege, and poor service steals that away from its riders. Waiting an extra 20 minutes for the bus means that you may miss your doctor's appointment that's now been canceled. You may be late for work or pay an additional fee for an extra hour of childcare. I spoke to a rider who's had to wait outside her workplace for an hour to take a 15-minute ride because she couldn't walk the distance home and her bus comes once an hour. So in closing, we ask you not to downsize or downplay the seriousness of this service crisis. Prove that riders and frontline workers are the backbone of this agency's priorities by working with riders to create a short-term and long-term plan to increase and expand service. Not just ask us what a minimum amount of harm is that we can withstand. Partner with us, publish the plans, and get back on track. You have the ability, you have the expertise in front of you and in all 4 garages. Spend your time off in December working with us, not on plans that strip away service from the most disadvantaged communities and disenfranchised riders. Thank you.
Okay, our next scheduled meeting is not until January 26th, 2024. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, any other
Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, and Happy New Year.
Yep.
And that, see you in 2024.